SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
When your health matters most, trust South Central Regional Medical Center. From family care to life-saving treatment, our team is here for you. Find our services at scrmc.com. South Central Regional Medical Center. Excellent care and service, every patient, every interaction, every time.
Was previously recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, good morning and welcome in to the Friday edition of Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Today is June 11th, 2025. Today is the day that the College World Series begins. Of course, Ole Miss in the College World Series. We'll tell you more about their matchup with North Carolina that comes your way at 6 o'clock tonight when we get to our sports update coming up a little bit later, presented by Pearl River Resort. Glad to have you along for the ride, wherever you are, however you're listening. Thanks for making us part of your morning routine. As you know, Fridays are a mix. We've got some new content for you, some news updates, some of the things that are happening on this day, but also it's a rewind throughout the week for some of the interviews that we've had. Really good group of guests throughout the course of this week that we've got coming up for you this morning. Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. As you know, the C Spire text line is always the best way to get in touch with us, to be part of the conversation. And C Spire has the one plan going. The one plan from C Spire is here: fiber home internet and wireless. Only $99 a month for new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromise. Get started now at cspire.com/one-plan. We're headed for a warm weekend, but maybe a little bit of a break compared to the temperatures that we have had for the last few days. And then when we get into the first part of next week, it's actually going to cool off a little bit more. So with some high temperatures, maybe in the lower 80s as opposed to the low to mid 90s like we've had for the last few days. But today, Senatobia in northwest Mississippi, you've got a high of 92 degrees with an overnight low tonight around 74. Mostly sunny, maybe some clouds this afternoon with a chance of isolated thunderstorms, especially late in the afternoon and into the early evening hours. Going to be hot and humid in Senatobia. How about in Greenville today, where Steve Azar is hosting his annual celebrity golf tournament and fundraiser at the Greenville Golf and Country Club. High of 93. That's where I'm going to be a little bit later today, and going to be sure to take the sunscreen and make sure we got on light colored clothes to try and stay a little bit cool. 93 for the high in Greenville. 77 the overnight low tonight. Mostly sunny, partly cloudy skies at times. Going to be hot and humid with a heat index likely of over 100 degrees. So if you happen to be playing in that golf tournament today and you're listening in right now, yes, there will be lots for you to choose from, but make sure that water is part of the rotation for drinks while you're on the golf course. Really pretty low chance of any isolated showers throughout the day. Coastal Mississippi, Ocean Springs, 89 degrees for your high today, with a low tonight around 79, partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm. Going to be really humid on the coast with a few coastal breezes mixed in. And for our last city this morning on the forecast, we go outside the state of Mississippi. Let's check in Omaha, Nebraska. Mid to upper 80s for the high today. The low overnight will be in the mid to upper 50s. So it'll cool off this evening. But the sun won't go down until that first game or that second game tonight is basically over. Mostly sunny, breezy after maybe some early morning clouds that are going to clear out. It's going to be much cooler and drier than it is here in the state of Mississippi, which means lower humidity. That's probably good news for everybody that's going to be in the stands at Charles Schwab Field. Adria Lima was born on this day in 1981. She's 45 years old today. The Brazilian supermodel and actress, one of the most famous Victoria's Secret angels of all time, known for her long runway career, high-profile campaigns, and global influence in fashion. On a more serious note, Anne Frank was born on this day in 1929. The German-Dutch diarist, The Diary of a Young Girl is one of the most widely read accounts of Jewish life during the Holocaust. Former President George H.W. Bush was born on this day in 1924, the 41st president of the United States. He served from 1989 until 1993, served as vice president under Ronald Reagan. He was a World War II naval aviator and also served as director of the Central Intelligence Agency. John Augustus Roebling was born on this day in 1806, the German-American civil engineer. He was the designer of the Brooklyn Bridge. He actually passed away before the completion of that project. It was finished off by his son after his death. Jim Nabors was born on this day, June 12th, 1930. The American actor and singer famous for playing the role of Gomer Pyle on The Andy Griffith Show and its spinoff. David Rockefeller was born on this day in 1915, the American banker and philanthropist. He was the longtime head of Chase Manhattan Bank and a bigwig in global finance. On this day in 1964, Nelson Mandela and 7 others were sentenced to life imprisonment in South Africa for treason, sabotage, and conspiracy against the apartheid government. Mandela's long incarceration became a global symbol of resistance. In 1967, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Loving versus Virginia, striking down laws that banned interracial marriage in the United States. 1987, President Ronald Reagan delivered his famous speech at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, challenging Mikhail Gorbachev, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. It was today in 1963 that civil rights leader Medgar Evers was assassinated in Jackson. In 1939, the National Baseball Hall of Fame opened in Cooperstown, New York. In 1920, legendary racehorse Man O' War wins the Belmont Stakes and sets a record for the fastest mile ever. And finally, 1994 was the year Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman murdered in Los Angeles, leading to the very high-profile O.J. Simpson trial. Let's look at what has happened this day in history. Some news headlines for you this morning. This one is interesting. Mississippi's Supreme Court has weighed in on a dispute between Attorney General Lynn Fitch and State Auditor Shad White over whose office has the sole authority to pursue lawsuits in cases involved in the alleged misspending of public money. The state's high court ruled yesterday that Fitch's team is responsible for litigating such cases and that White's office lacks the jurisdiction to do so. The decision reversed a 2024 ruling handed down by the Hinds County Chancery Court that denied the Attorney General plenary authority over lawsuits to recoup misspent funds. Justice Jennifer Branning wrote on behalf of herself and 6 of her colleagues, "We render judgment here that the Attorney General possesses and the auditor lacks the authority to prosecute and to manage litigation seeking the recovery of state money." Only 7 of the 9 Supreme Court justices ruled in this case. The ones presiding over the case ruled in unanimous consent. The dispute between White and Fitch, both of whom are potential gubernatorial candidates here in Mississippi for the 2027 election cycle, began after Shad White attempted to sue ex-NFL star Brett Favre for his alleged role in misspending taxpayer dollars connected to the largest welfare scandal in Mississippi history. The scandal entailed hundreds of millions of dollars intended for the state's poorest residents, allegedly being abused by people in power. Lynn Fitch took Shad White to court shortly after he filed the suit, challenging his ability to sue on behalf of the state of Mississippi, though the auditor maintained that state law granted him the authority to pursue lawsuits like this, the one originally against Brett Favre. SuperTalk Mississippi News reached out to Lynn Fitch's office for response, and they responded by saying and pointing to a portion of the ruling that said, "We find a common sense separation of duties as prescribed by the legislature, that the auditor will audit and the attorney general will litigate." A Democratic super PAC that previously focused on presidential races is wading into congressional midterms with a $50 million investment, including $2 million backing Scott Colomb in his challenge to Mississippi Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. American Bridge 21st Century is the super PAC. They describe themselves as the largest research, tracking, and rapid response operation in the Democratic Party. They are pumping money into races in Iowa, Alaska, Colorado, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Mississippi. So $2 million coming toward Scott Colomb's campaign from the Democratic Super PAC. Those are your news headlines this morning. We've got more coming up with you right here on Mornings with Richard Cross. When we come back, you will hear an conversation that I had earlier this week with the gaming commissioner here in the state of Mississippi. That is Jay McDaniel. Mornings is presented by Community Bank online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. We're back with you right after this.
From the event.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Face lost all expression. Said if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. 'Cause you got to know when to hold 'em.
Good morning, Kenny Rogers. The One Plan from C Spire is here. Fiber home internet and wireless, only $99 a month for for both new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromises. Get started now at cspire.com/oneplan. C Spire, customer inspired. C Spire text line open to you at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Our first guest this morning is Jay McDaniel, Executive Director with the Mississippi Gaming Commission. Jay, good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning, Richard. Doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for some of your time. Just kind of an overall update right now from what is going on at the Gaming Commission.
So things are busy right now. The gaming in general, casino gaming, is steady so far this year. You know, we've done 5 months so far, and it's the coastal market's a little ahead of last year, and the river markets are a little down. So we're pretty much even from last year, where we did over $2.4 billion in gaming revenue. State gets 8% of that, so that's very important to us. But I don't know if you've read in the news, there's a lot of acquisitions proposed out there. Tillman Fertitta, our ambassador to Italy, who owns Empire Entertainment Empire, he's got the Golden Nugget here in Mississippi, and they have a purchase agreement, or in the process of possibly purchasing Caesars, which is a huge acquisition. And Caesars has 4 properties here. So right now, the Gaming Commission, my 3 commissioners would have to review and approve that here, as he would have to do in all the states he does business. But that's going on. And then you have the People Inc. Empire, the Barry Diller Empire, has now proposed to purchase MGM. So those are 2 very large, gaming consolidation acquisitions kind of floating out there. And there are a few others you may read about in the coming weeks or months. So with that said, just a lot going on out there in the world.
Jay, what is the general feeling of the board with the Gaming Commission about acquisitions like that? When you look at big groups compared to individual operators?
So, in Mississippi, we're very open market. So the way we look at things is, we don't scrutinize maybe like the FTC does about, you obviously don't want to oversaturate one market, but that's kind of antitrust guys look at that. The feds look at that from a Mississippi standpoint. If it's good for, just business in general, if it still creates a strong gaming environment, a lot of times these will put better quality out there. You got one by maybe a couple of properties that were distressed and make them better. That's what the commissioners want. The commissioners are smart businessmen, do not want to get in the way of development, business growth. So it's really, unless there's a major issue, Richard, where we see a problem that this is going to create, say down in Biloxi, at the end of the day, it's like, where our gaming operations meet our regulations, meet our requirements, and you'll be a good corporate citizen. Those are the primary goals here. So make sure they're run by a good company.
You mentioned that the coast casinos are outpacing the river casinos in terms of revenue. I think most people know kind of the evolution of gaming in Mississippi. It started in Tunica County with Splash all those years ago. I guess it's been over 30 years ago now. And then we saw more that kind of popped up. Obviously, Tuna became a gaming mecca. You had Vicksburg. You had Lula right there at the Helena Bridge, which was Isle of Capri forever. I don't even know if that's the name of the casino at this point.
It is. Still is.
Are those, is life support, Tunica looks vastly different than it did 20 years ago, maybe even a decade ago, and there are properties that have left. Is life support the best way to describe the gaming industry along the river and specifically in Tunica?
I think for Tunica, if it's not life support, it's really close, Richard. Fortunately, we have some good operators there. Penn has a property there. Foundation Gaming runs a good property there. Caesars has. So, they have the capital to put in and keep them going. But, man, I've closed 4 up there in the last 10, 12 years. And, closing 4 casinos in a market, that's almost half the market. We still have 5 in Tunica, but we had 10. So, back when Harrah's closed, Harrah's was the large one that had the convention center, the golf course, 3 hotels. When that one closed, and it was really a matter of just too much property, that kind of started this trend of Tunica just wasn't what it used to be. It is still a popular gaming market. They're just doing half of what they used to do. So that's why I don't want to say fully life support in that I think it will still continue to be a market. I just don't see it ever being what it was, absent some kind of change in the market conditions, and not just gaming, just economic development in the area. Tennessee has mobile sports wagering, so people aren't going to drive down from Memphis like they used to. Arkansas has upped their game. The racetracks there now have nicer casinos. So it's nothing, no fault of our operators up there. It's just the market conditions, harder to bring customers to that area.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you next is how much of what they've done in West Memphis at Southland and what Saracen has done kind of in the Arkansas Delta, that southeastern part of Arkansas, has been the impetus for the downward trend with those Delta casinos, specifically in Tunica.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. 2011, we had just come out of the recession, so you'd already been hit with kind of an economic downturn. Then the flood, if you remember 2011, big flood, the casinos closed for about a month. And that happened to be the exact same time that Southland did an expansion. And they just started going hard with targeted ads, come to Southland, Tunica's awful. Some of it was really some nasty marketing. And so they picked up a lot of that Memphis market that just kept going over there, even when the casinos reopened. So just that was kind of the catalyst, and it just hasn't really recovered since. And then you throw in the expansion of Midwestern gaming, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri. People used to drive down 55, from Chicago to come to Tunica because there just weren't casinos in the area. Now there are, and they're expanding up there. So, and it's something, it's a lesson that our state just needs to continue to watch. The coast is great now, but you legalize it in Alabama or Georgia or Texas, you could start to see the same thing there. So we're always watchful for that.
Well, and that's a really interesting point. I'm curious if there are other places in the United States where you've looked at kind of a boom and bust cycle with casinos. They come in, people are super excited about them, and then over time, maybe they don't invest in them, or maybe they do invest in them, but new options are available. Are there other places where you have seen kind of the rise and fall of entire areas of gaming?
I don't know to the level that we're seeing in Tunica, simply because if you think, Richard, 30 years ago when Tunica and everything was really growing, it was really Nevada, us, and Atlantic City. I mean, those were kind of the three big markets, and Tunica was the third biggest market in the U.S. New Jersey experienced a downturn in Atlantic City, very similar.
I was wondering if Atlantic City might be what you pointed to.
Yeah, Atlantic City definitely saw a downturn, recession era, 2008, but they did a really good job of, unfortunately, I can't point to any particular, economic driver other than the operators there got together, and I do believe they worked together with their gaming commission, with their state. What can we do to improve the view of Atlantic City? And not all of the casinos came back, but the ones that did, fortunately, you had corporations willing to put money into them. And so now the 7 or 8 that are there, or I believe it was 12 before, I may be wrong, but some of them left, but the ones that came back better. And I think you've seen a resurgence in Atlantic City. And I'll tell you one thing New Jersey did. I'm not saying this is, the online gaming thing is a big, a lot of people don't like to talk about it. But what New Jersey recognized is New York is about to take a lot of our business away because New York's got gaming now. So they allow their operators to start doing online gaming to try and get people, from the edges of New Jersey to continue to game and not leave and go into New York. And that helped them. And so I'm not saying that's something that should be done, but that's one thing they point to. That New Jersey will tell you that online gaming for them worked because it kept people in the edges of the state from leaving and going into New York and Pennsylvania. So all that to say, it's just an example of a state kind of looking at it and saying, this works for us. We need to do something to change. Don't just sit on the old model. And that's what they've done.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I posted something on X about a week ago. I was watching, I guess it was an NBA Finals game, and DraftKings has a series of ads that are running right now where they point to being available in all 50 states, which is certainly a change, and it has to do with prediction markets. I'll ask you about that on the other side of the break if we can, because we've had this conversation about online gaming in Mississippi and whether or not mobile sports betting should be legal. Should it be anything beyond mobile sports betting? We'll pick the conversation up with Jay McDaniel there on the other side of this timeout. He's the executive director with the Mississippi Gaming Commission. We'll take a quick timeout. We got more coming up with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We're back with you right after this.
From the Sebring, the White House, to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I feel tears welling up cold and deep inside like my heart's done a big break. And a stab of loneliness sharp and painful that I may never shake. You might say that I was taking it hard since you wrote me off with a call. But don't you wager that I'll hide in sorrow when I may lay right down and fall. Now the race is on and here comes pride in the back.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We get more reaction on Country Music Wednesdays than any other day of the week from our guests, from listeners. Everybody's on board with the bump music. Jay McDaniel is my guest, executive director with the Mississippi Gaming Commission. Certainly appreciate your time this morning. You're a country music guy?
Absolutely, especially 1990s country music, because I think Lance is.
Yes. Of course. I mean, we grew up with that stuff, didn't we, Jay?
You know what Absolutely. I love, though, Jay? My kids, I mean, we're in 2026 right now, and my 16-year-old daughter in particular, I think she knows every word to every song that plays on Prime Country, which is
my kids too,
90s
and I love it.
For us.
Yeah, I love it.
Tease this before the break. So the mobile sports betting and online gaming conversation is one that rolls on in Mississippi, and it rolls on without any movement from the legislature over a number of years, particularly online sports betting. I mentioned this to you before the break. during a recent sporting event, I saw an ad from DraftKings saying that they were now available in all 50 states, and it caused you to go, hold on a second. I don't think we've got mobile sports betting in Mississippi. What's this? And so I dug a little bit. They have launched what they call a super app, in which side by side with their traditional online sports betting, they now have prediction markets that are available. Kalshi is the one that I guess has made that most popular. It's basically the buying of contracts, so it technically is not sports betting, even though it absolutely is sports betting. What is the impact on Mississippi by that?
So, yeah, the Kalshi situation that has been created by the regulation of the CFTC that is basically allowing their licensees under federal law to operate these exchanges has now opened up the floodgates of what, like you say, appears to be sports betting, just like our licensees do it, but it's the nuances of it fit under this federal law that Kalshi and even the CFTC, our federal government, is arguing this preempts state law. So even if I say it's illegal, it doesn't matter because this law makes it legal under the federal regime. So what's happened, Richard, is Kalshi was kind of the first. They've been doing it for a year now. You and I talked about this in February, and I warned our operators. I was like, look, guys, this is not stopping anytime soon. They just had a $22 billion valuation of Kalshi.
Wow.
One, because they are doing something that's very popular, and because of the position of our current administration and the CFTC that it fits under that law. Until the Supreme Court says it doesn't, I think it's going to continue to happen. And 6 months ago, I would have told you, I think eventually the Supreme Court shuts this down, but every day that goes by, there are more federal circuits. Some are siding with the states. Some are siding with the operators in the CFTC. The CFTC has actually started suing states that are trying to enforce their state laws. So if you wonder why it's happening here, it's because it really, at this point, can't be stopped, not immediately. It takes a long, drawn-out litigation, and that's what we're seeing nationwide. So a company like DraftKings that was operating legally in the sports betting space, doing fine with fantasy and sports, has to say, well, if Kalshi's going to do it, can we get in that game too? But for them, they got to be very careful because they have these gaming licenses. And so in Mississippi, it's on their app, but you should not be able to buy a sports contract here because they've got an agreement. They're going to have that offering, but not with sports. But that may be different in Alabama. It may be different in Tennessee. That's why you see them saying, we've got something in all 50 states. It may just look a little different state by state. So it's just chaos. It really is. And it's very frustrating.
All right, so to be clear, if I want to download the DraftKings app onto my phone and I want to bet on if I want to buy a contract on the Ole Miss North Carolina baseball game on Friday night, I cannot do that in Mississippi right now?
Not on the DraftKings app. Well, you shouldn't. If you can, I'll talk to them. But you can on Kalshi because Kalshi is not a licensee of ours, and they don't care what we say. So right now you can go on Kalshi. I'm not trying to plug them, but you can pick the North Carolina Ole Miss matchup and buy a contract. You know, it's they've got North Carolina as a slight advantage. So if you pay $100 on Ole Miss, your contract's going to pay more than your contract on North Carolina. And their argument is if Richard buys that contract on one side, Jay's buying it on the other, and they're basically swapping with each other. The house is not involved. It just takes a fee. But that's really the same thing that goes on in a sports book is they change the line to get money on both sides. That's how they make money. They don't want everyone betting on one side. So it is. It's for the listeners that don't know, it's very interesting. It's just kind of where we are right now.
The reaction online that I got to that post a week or so was mixed. I mean, there were people who said that gambling is immoral and it is a tax on the poor and it's not something that we need in Mississippi. There was a response on there from the Speaker of the House, Jason White, who said, hey, let's be clear. When you say the state has not allowed this to move forward, it's the Senate that has not allowed this to move forward. He pointed out that the House had passed online sports betting legislation multiple times, and it had died in the Senate. So I guess we should get that out there. I'm not trying to be too generic when I say the state. At this point, does it even make sense for the legislature, the Senate in particular, to say we give up, make it legal, let's collect the tax revenue? Or is it, as Senator Blunt said to me a few months ago, it's really not enough revenue to worry about anymore?
Yeah, those are tough questions, and I'm not elected to answer those. But you're right. I mean, we talked about that in February. Even I mentioned, I know that operators don't like the argument, well, someone else is doing it, so we should too. But you got to consider that, Richard, is that Cauchy is getting bigger. If eventually the Supreme Court authorizes it, then do you come in and say, okay, well, we might as well do it too, because this is for 18-year-olds, not just 21-year-olds. And the problem gambling, unfortunately, I hate it, but it's going to likely occur. So let's get some skin in the game. Let's, if we were to legalize it, my argument would be to put some of that tax revenue into problem gambling resources, Department of Mental Health. Ole Miss just launched the Center on Collegiate Gambling. I don't know if you read that. I'm glad they did that. The IHL approved that. I think they said it's $700,000 a year to run this. Well, let's fund it with that tax revenue, because I'm glad they're doing that. I want to see those statistics. I have a son in college. That worries me. So all that to say is it's tough. I get it. But it just gets bigger and bigger, the illegal market. And unfortunately it is, and I think every state regulator will tell you, it's probably here to stay. So it's just going to have to be, if the Senate wants to make the decision, hey, we'll fight it another way. Give me the tools to fight it. Let's do that.
Jay, is this just a new chapter in a really, really old book? A book about gambling where people will find a way if they want to gamble, period?
I think so, Richard, but it used to be you had to drive to that corner store that had machines in the back, or you had to go to your bookie, physically, or call him on the phone. The thing about that is 10 years ago, if I got a call from a sheriff that he had a little place with illegal machines, sure, my guys would drive up there, destroy the machines, seize the funds, charge them, easy. You can't do that anymore. It's all through your mobile device. And I don't have the ability to reach into a foreign country and stop them from doing it. I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. It's going to take Department of Justice. It's going to take major state action, RICO kind of cases. And even if you get one or two, there's 100 more doing it. And so it's hard. That's why I say it's frustrating. Last session, the House passed the online gambling. The Senate passed the penalties bill that I'd asked for to make these felonies. And that's what I mean by giving me the tools to make it easier to go after them. And both failed, unfortunately. So we're just kind of sitting here where we were, last year. But I'll say this, my guys, I got a good team here. We are working up cases. They just take time. Then you got to have a prosecutor willing to prosecute them. So we're doing our best right now, and hopefully we'll see some results in the near future.
Appears to be an uphill battle.
It definitely is.
That you're fighting.
I'll say that.
Yeah. Jay, always appreciate your time and your insight. I think we covered a lot of ground there, and it's good to catch up with you. Hope you have a great summer, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Thank you, Richard.
Jay McDaniel, Executive Director with the Mississippi Gaming Association. We will wrap up the 7 o'clock hour on this 10th of June, 2026, coming up in just a few minutes. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We're back with you after this.
Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to. To believe in this living is just a hard way to go.
Good morning from the...
Right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
and Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Today is Friday, June 12th, 2026, and we are glad to have you along for the ride. Enjoyed the conversation earlier this week with Jay McDaniel. If you missed it back on Tuesday, I think it was, glad you were able to catch that this morning. It's time for your Mississippi Lottery Update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery online at mslottery.com. That is the Mississippi Lottery. And don't forget to download the Mississippi Lottery app. It is free. It is available in the iTunes store and, the App Store, and also from Google Play. So be sure to download that today. Tonight, we've got Mega Millions coming your way. The estimated jackpot is $413 million with an estimated cash value of $182,600,000. Tomorrow night, it is Powerball. Jackpot, $258 million with $115 million estimated cash value. Be sure to check them out online at the Mississippi Lottery. It's mslottery.com, mslottery.com. Mornings is brought to you by Community Bank. Ever notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. And when you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs are, here you'll talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net. It's time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online, pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort is your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. Also, golf is in your future. Make sure it's at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. 2 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas, available to you. You can book your tee time online at dancingrabbitgolf.com. College World Series begins tonight. Ole Miss and North Carolina. Hold on, I should back up. College World Series actually begins this afternoon, but the interest level goes off the charts here in the state of Mississippi coming up tonight. If you want to listen to Ole Miss and North Carolina, game time is 6 o'clock, 5:30 the airtime. David Kellum and Brad Henderson will have all of the action for you on the Ole Miss Sports Network from Learfield. Many of these SuperTalk Mississippi stations will have the game for you coming up this evening. If you want to watch the game, you can do so on ESPN. Everything in the College World Series, with the exception of Game 2 of the National Championship Final Series, that best 2 out of 3, is on ESPN. That game, so that's the Sunday afternoon game, will be broadcast on ABC. So Ole Miss and North Carolina tonight, ESPN, 6 o'clock first pitch. Rebels going with right-hander Taylor Rabe. He's 5-3 on the year, 3.71 ERA, 98 strikeouts and just 29 earned runs, with 61 hits and just 11 walks all season. Rabe, over the last month, has been absolutely outstanding, and that's why Mike Bianco turns to him for Game 1 against North Carolina. On the other side, North Carolina going with Jason DeCaro. He's had an outstanding year, 11-2. He has led that Tar Heels rotation, a 2.28 ERA, walks and hits per innings pitched. That's called WHIP, 1.28, 84 strikeouts, and just 38 walks this year, 22 earned runs. He's given up just 73 hits all season long. Obviously, you keep an eye on Judd Utermark, the program's all-time home run leader, and he'll try to continue that in a ballpark that's a little harder to hit home runs. And, of course, Will Furnace coming off a huge super regional for Ole Miss, came up with that big 2-run home run to put the Rebels in front in the 8th inning on Saturday night. For North Carolina, they are led offensively by Owen Hull and Jake Schaffner. Hull hitting .390 on the year. He's got 92 hits and has driven in 81 runs, including the game winner for North Carolina in Game 3 of their Super Regional. Schaffner's hitting .358. He's driven in 46. The two have combined for 13 home runs on the year. Ole Miss and North Carolina on the left side of the bracket, joined by West Virginia and Troy. They will play at 1 o'clock this afternoon. And then on the other side of the bracket, games that are happening tomorrow, Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama. So that's a look at the College World Series. Don't forget, if you're in the market for a new or previously owned vehicle, Belk Ford on Highway 6 West in Oxford is the place for you. They'll take care of you. Great selection, great sales team, not going to be pushy, not going to be hard to deal with. They'll get you in the vehicle that you want, that you can afford at a price that's going to make you smile. BelkFord.net, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Tell them you heard about it on Mornings with Richard Cross. Oh, and one more thing. The World Cup for the United States begins tonight. It's the United States and Paraguay. They play at 7 o'clock Central Time on Fox. Coming up to start the 7 o'clock hour, Courtney Taylor and Scott Waller will join me. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Was previously recorded.
Good morning, everybody.
Time to wake up.
Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome in a pair of guests this morning. Scott Waller, who is Executive Vice President of MSBA, the Mississippi Business Alliance, and President of the MSBA Foundation, and Courtney Taylor, who is Executive Director at Accelerate Mississippi. Scott, I think you were ready to chime in on the country music.
I think he may have stumped me. The only yodeler I know is Jimmy Rogers, but I don't think that was Jimmy Rogers.
No. Yeah, you said you knew Jimmy real well, and I'm like, well, this guy, this Slim Whitman, man, that's a good old guy.
Whitman. Brooks and Dunn with 90s country is always safe, Lance. I'm just telling you, we can go that way.
I told him I told him a little Merle Haggard or Marty Robbins. I'd be okay with that too. So,
yeah. Courtney Taylor and Scott Waller, I don't know that you're responsible for this, but I think you did something illegal yesterday. The first sentence of the press release should be illegal for the number of acronyms. The Mississippi Business Alliance Foundation, that's the MSBAF, has entered into a formal partnership with Accelerate Mississippi, the state's Office of Workforce Development, that would be the OWD, to support the work of the newly established Mississippi Post-Secondary Attainment Council, or MPAC, through MSBA's Work Future Institute for Workforce and Educational Excellence. What the heck does that mean?
Listen, I think it means we're trying really hard, and I think we need more acronyms in there.
Could we have some meetings to go along with that?
Absolutely. You know what? Have I got a deal for you, Richard?
I bet you do.
We actually have first meetings coming up next month.
Courtney, let's start there. Let's unpack just a little bit at a less acronymy way. What are we talking about here?
So look, we're talking about bringing together partners from economic development, from workforce development, industry, specifically industry, get everybody in the same room, private sector, to really drive towards the ultimate thing that we need, which is people in the workforce, but the appropriate people in the workforce. We need people who have the appropriate level of post-secondary attainment across all, institutions. That we're not just talking about industrial maintenance and plumbing here. We're talking about engineers and accountants and doctors and specialists and things of that nature. So getting all of those partners at the table to work on strategies to drive that forward, and to drive us forward as a state to say not only what do we need, but where do we need it, how many of the trained individuals and educated individuals do we need? What's the pipeline look like a few years from now? Today's, if we built a new company or something of that, or if we landed a new company right now, it's today's 8th graders that would go to work in that. So diving back into the educational pipeline across all levels is really what it is. Look, on the surface, it's just a group of people getting together. That's why the work, what we're doing with MSBA is so important, because we need our industries driving this. We don't need education and we don't need government driving it. We need industry driving it.
Scott, I think sports fans know the difference between Ole Miss and the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation, though they work hand in hand. They know the difference between Mississippi State, the university, and the Bulldog Club, though those two entities work hand in hand. What is the difference between the Mississippi Business Alliance and the Mississippi Business Alliance Foundation?
Well, the easiest way to look at that is to your point. The Mississippi Business Alliance is I often refer to it as the mothership. It is the state chamber. It's the state affiliate for the National Association National Association of Manufacturers. It represents all sectors of the economy, and it focuses on a variety of things, from public policy to regulations to what they need, and those policies and those things that we work on oftentimes work together with what the foundation does. But the foundation is a 501c3. It's a charitable foundation that can actually do research and focus on looking for solutions and really pick the things that we need to do. And of course, workforce development and educational excellence is kind of what we put our attention to as we go forward, and how that affects the state's economy. So they work. You're right. They're separate entities, but they work hand in hand. We're all under the same roof, doing the same things every day. But at the end of the day, our members are served by MSBA, and the foundation is there as a support mechanism to allow us to do the work we need to do as it relates to being able to go to Accelerate and say, hey, here's some research we have, here's some things that we want to work on, to go to our community colleges, IHL, and our legislature with that information. It's MSBA's job to push through the policy side of it. It's our job to really focus on what does that look like.
Who's writing checks to the foundation?
Well, it's a variety of people. We have major supporters for our Work Future Institute. We have 3 large foundations that are supporting us, philanthropic foundations. We have several private foundations, and we have a lot of corporate support as well. So it's really a varied group of people that do this, and we can always use more. So call me, and I can tell you how you could fit in. But there's a lot of really good stuff going on as a result of what we're able to do. We've had there were 2 foundations that, as part of the merger, as everyone, just to remind everyone, in January, what was MMA, the Manufacturing Association, MEC, the State Chamber, and the group BIPEC all merged to form
more acronyms
that formed the Mississippi Business Alliance. That's the name of the organization,
right?
And from that, we were able to really focus on how we wanted to structure the foundation to make it more efficient, effective, and actually really accomplish what it should be doing as a foundation.
Look, they had efficiency right off the bat. They took 3 acronyms and made it 1.
There you go. Trying to make the workflow a little bit better there. So Courtney, Impact, the Mississippi Post-Secondary Attainment Council. You said a second ago, this is all about preparing people for work in Mississippi. Is the larger idea here, at the behest of Governor Reeves and others in leadership, Mississippi is aggressively pursuing companies to come here? We have to have people to fill the jobs for these companies?
Yeah, I think absolutely. We also have existing industry here who it's transitioning with technology, growing and developing as we bring in more businesses. So you have, different indirect and induced impacts. We have to meet the companies where they're going, and that involves all levels of education. The companies that we already have, and then we know, staring down the barrel of what we're going to recruit and what's coming in is absolutely going to require more, higher level of skill set, whatever. But we have data. We just have to do better with it. We have to use it better. We have to use it more specifically as we're looking at this. And I think if we do that successfully, then we will meet our companies, both our existing ones and the ones that are yet to locate here, where they're going.
It may take a minute to do this, but I think this could be an interesting exercise. Let's take 3 different ages. Let's take an 8th grader, which you mentioned a second ago. Let's take a high school junior, and let's take a college junior. And can you outline for me what some of these initiatives might look like for each of those age ranges? An 8th grader who's starting out, who's got the entire world in front of them, has no idea what they want to do, and is going to see options as they go through high school. That high school junior who's a year away from graduating, that, you know, might be going to college, might be jumping into the workforce, might be going after military training. And then that college junior who's like, I got to go get a job.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Yeah, so I think where an 8th grader is concerned, you know, we need them at that stage between 6th and 8th grade doing broad career exposure. This does not look like putting them on a machine of any kind necessarily. It's just here's how the world works outside of you. Here's how you work with your hands. Here's how you do, or here's what an engineer is. Here's what a special, some kind of, osteopathic doctor is, whatever. Just broad exposure, because the jobs are increasingly hard to go see. When you grew up years ago, you grew up in a small community, you could see, the butcher and the baker and the doctor and the lawyer. But today you can't really do that. So get just broad exposure at the 8th grade level. Get them hooked on something other than Instagram and video games. Those are fine things to entertain yourself with, but they got to do something different.
All right, so we'll pick up with the high school junior and the college junior on the other side of the break. Another topic that we're going to get into, hopefully this is not too uncomfortable. There's a conversation at the higher ed level about performance-based funding. And part of that conversation is about producing college graduates that are ready to fill the jobs that are needed in Mississippi. We'll get the MSBA's take on that when we come back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
You can't not tap your foot and nod your head a little bit. It's just the rule. I don't make the rules. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Scott Waller, president of the MSBA Foundation, executive vice president with the Mississippi Business Alliance, and Courtney Taylor, executive director for Accelerate Mississippi, are my guests. Before the break, laid out a question for Courtney in terms of practically filling jobs and training the future. What does it look like for an 8th grader, for a high school junior, and for a college junior at the different stages of life? She talked about exposing an 8th grader to a wide range of what is available to them. When you get a little closer, Courtney, to high school graduation, you've got an 11th grader that may or may not be going to college, whether it's 4-year or community college, might or might not be headed to the military, might or might not be ready to just jump into the workforce right out of the gate. So in terms of some of what Accelerate Mississippi and Impact are offering for that age student, boy or girl, what's there for them? There we go.
There we go.
Now we got you hot.
So I think, you're looking at the 11th grade level. It is, that's when reality starts to set in a little bit, where they're trying to figure out what that next step is. We've worked with the MDE, and we're working with several school districts along with some community college partners, Build Mississippi, to get what we call just non-credit workforce training in there for those students. But at the 11th grade level is when you start getting their attention, when they say, oh no, I didn't take something seriously, maybe I didn't do whatever. So at that age, they need to be going into businesses and industries. They need to be doing internships. They need to be having summer jobs, things that, and they can do any broader range of things. I jokingly say, like, kids need to be yelled at by somebody other than their parents. And so work is good for them. So they just need to be working, experiencing life. And at that point, it's really figuring out, and for many students, what they don't want to do more than it is figuring out what they do want to do.
Okay.
And then you have the students who know what they want to do, and it's really just supporting them and helping them understand what their options are as they get into the next phase of their life. And so that can look like, helping them with financial aid, or helping them understand work-based learning opportunities while they're in school, whatever. That is, I think, to me, the most critical. 8th grade and 11th grade are really the most formative times to help students understand where we can still help them in a kind of a safe environment before they're out on their own figuring it out. 11th grade, and I'm going to let Scott take this one because I think he had a really good point on the 11th grade.
Well, actually, it was on the junior in college.
Yeah, excuse me, I meant junior.
The junior in college, you mentioned that they wake up, oh no, I got to go find a job. If we have anyone in college, and I view college as all post-secondary education, but we've had anyone in college getting close to finishing what they're doing, and they wake up and go, oh no, I got to get a job. Where's that going to be? We have failed them, period. We need to be making sure they understand what their chosen major is, what their chosen track is, what the jobs are within that track, where the jobs are, what are the outcomes in terms of pay, things of that nature. They don't need to be waking up and going, well, I guess I'm about to finish, so I need to go start looking for a job. What that means is they just went to school, they picked a major, they're going through the process, and they're about to get a degree, and they go, okay, how do I use this? That doesn't need to be what we're doing. We need to be from day one, from the time they set foot on campus, whether it's a community college, whether it's a 4-year college, knowing that this major that I have chosen, or when they do choose their major, they may not do it that first year, which is actually not a bad thing. Let's learn, let's get some options out there for them when they come in as freshmen to say, hey, we'll get some of our general stuff out of the way, and then we start looking at where we fit, where are we good at. That's how it needs to. There needs to be advising. There needs to be understanding. There needs to be a lot more attention given to what each major actually, what that outcome is. And I think that comes back to kind of your other question that we ended that segment with is, how do outcomes fit into how we fund things? I mean, I think if we have positive outcomes, that needs to be rewarded at a greater level than those that aren't positive. And I think that's the thing that we've got to look at is making a student understand they can choose any major they want. We don't ever want to pigeonhole anybody into anything. If they want to go major in, I don't care what it is, if they want to major in something, they have that's their choice. We should support that, and our universities and community colleges need to work with them. Yeah. But at the same time, they need to, when they say, this is what I want to major in, they need to be able to say, okay, well, here's what your outcome can be. Here's what you need to expect. Here's the job categories that this certain degree or certification will allow you to be qualified for. Here's what they pay. So that they understand what their options are, so that they understand they're putting a lot of money in to getting this, next level, this post-secondary completion. They need to know what their return on investment is.
Sure. So, to that end, go pick whatever major you want. It's easy for us to say somebody that has a degree in electrical engineering is going to go down a path where they're an electrical engineer, and they're going to have opportunities to work with data centers and all kinds of different companies. What about the student that gets a degree in integrated marketing and communications, or gets a degree in English literature, I know both of you have encountered people, and I probably fall into this category myself, who goes, yeah, I got a degree in this, but what I'm doing has nothing to do with the degree that I got. But the educational foundation was still important. What are the jobs that are available to that English Lit major or that history major outside of becoming a teacher?
Well, I want to tackle this for just a second, because I think, a lot of times this conversation devolves pretty quickly into this is good, this is bad. And it skips over the simple fact that if you're going to get an English major, liberal arts major, or something, even a basic business degree today just doesn't have the same value that it used to. You have to have the skills alongside it. So if you just get a degree, if you sit in college and have a good time and do whatever and only get the degree, then chances are you're going to be working somewhere for $25,000 to $35,000 for a long time. Now, if you get skills alongside that, so if you learn how to, we need people, contrary to what they think with AI, we need people who know how to write. We need people who know how to think. Like, that is a major purpose of education. They have to be able to do something with those skills. Like, someone has to want to pay them with those skills. So it just really depends. And look, there's a lot of people today who have those exact degrees, and they get kind of fuzzed up a little bit when you talk about it, because they say, well, that's the degree I have and I've been successful. It's like, well, you probably had a network that helped connect you to jobs. You probably had really high-end work-based learning while you were in college. So you did internships wherever you made, law offices or wherever. So it's not that they're just like on their own bad. But if the outcomes from those degrees are generically not good, then maybe we just change that, So I think there's a lot of opportunities for people with those kinds of degrees specifically, but they are not as voluminous as the number of people getting those degrees. So in those cases, we're still treating human capital like a little bit like a livestock operation, where you put a whole bunch of people in it because it's cheap to teach them, and then you just shake out, and the top 10% shakes out and everybody else is on their own. And that's what we want to try to impact across the board is maybe we need fewer people in those types of pathways because the people who don't have the network or the work-based learning opportunities or whatever, maybe they need to be in more something more driven to a direct occupational need so that the pipeline is clearer. I feel like I used a lot of words. Sorry.
No, I think I can't disagree with anything you said, but it kind of comes down to the person, right? You've got to be driven. You've got to take advantage. Like, here are the opportunities. Here's the framework, but you've got to go do it.
Yeah, but that's not what we tell them. That what we tell kids as a whole, what we have told them, it's changing, and it's changing quickly, is just go to college and you'll be successful. And you have to actually do something in the middle of there. And you have to find someone who will pay you for those skills. Or you have to find a way to have those skills make money for yourself. Entrepreneurship is obviously a really good option. It's not for everybody. If you're not a self-starter, you probably don't need to go into business for yourself. So there are options, and Scott said it earlier. We don't want to choose for them. We do want to uncover things maybe they didn't know, so that they don't have to wait until their 30s to figure out what they want to do with their life. And that requires literally everyone. It can't just be the high school teacher or the counselor or even the career coach. Yeah. It's got to be across the board.
And I hear the music. I was going to say that the career coach is a perfect example of helping high school students understand it. That needs to be taken a lot further and deeper into the post-secondary process as well as we go forward. So,
if you guys have got time to hang, I'll keep you for just a few more minutes.
That'd be great.
Love it.
All right. Scott Waller, president of the MSBA Foundation, the Mississippi Business Alliance Foundation, and executive vice president with MSBA. I can't even get them out now.
Just say President Foundation, move on.
Courtney Taylor, executive director with Accelerate Mississippi. We're back with you right after this. We'll wrap up the conversation on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Sea Room.
Good morning. Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
See, Lance, I'm supposed to talk, but you spin this record and
I know it.
sit back in the chair and listen for a little while.
Listen, I'm going to run off some listeners if I start singing.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Visiting with Courtney Taylor from Accelerate Mississippi and Scott Waller from the Mississippi Business Alliance. If you've listened to this program for any time, you know that we get lots of messages on the C Spire text line. And Thomas is one of our frequent texters. He is a bit of a contrarian. He frequently brings up the topic of H-1B workers and the idea that we are investing all of this training and spending resources to make sure that Mississippians who are graduating high school and college are ready to go to work in jobs that are available for Mississippians. And Thomas's thought is that why are we investing in all this when companies are just going to go hire H-1B workers instead? Any thoughts from either of the two of you on how that plays out and what that looks like practically here?
I mean, not to brush it aside, but we don't see that, at least not with the companies we're working with. I'm sure it's a thing, but it's actually pretty difficult to hire H-1B workers in this country, and they're not coming over here to take, they are taking maybe some engineering jobs, but I don't see that a lot in Mississippi. So,
well, I think, Richard, the bottom line is if you look at what we're going to need in our workforce, it's going to require a lot of Mississippians and a lot of people coming into Mississippi. It's that focus on how do we not only retain the talent we have, how do we attract talent here, and in some cases, whether it's that or just getting people to come from other places from the U.S. to come to work in Mississippi, which we're seeing more of that now. I mean, I hate the phrase brain drain because we, about 3 years ago, did some roundtable sessions with young professionals, and there are a lot of really bright people who've decided to stay in Mississippi or decided to come to Mississippi. So that's a disservice to say that we're losing our best and our brightest. We're keeping a lot of them. We just need to keep more of them.
Yeah.
So I think that when you think about how you do that, it all comes back to there's a word that we really haven't talked about yet, and that's alignment. Yeah, Courtney knew exactly where I was headed because she said it. If we focus strictly on increasing post-secondary attainment, in other words, getting more people to have more credentials, associate's degrees, or bachelor's or beyond, then we haven't done our job. We've got to make sure that that post-secondary attainment aligns with the jobs that we have here in Mississippi. And we're making sure that our students that are going through these programs understand what their opportunities are here in Mississippi. Kind of comes back to what we finished it. If the career coach job at the high school level is to make them understand what, number one, assess what their talents and their interests and their aptitudes are in a way that they can then go to the next level of education and be successful. That has to carry on to that next level of education so that they understand when they get in this program, regardless if it's short-term, long-term, whatever the case may be, what are the outcomes and what are the job opportunities and what are those skills that Courtney talked about, regardless of the major, are you mixing the skills that are going to allow them to do that? If we're not doing that, then we've got a problem. But the alignment begins on our end, and this is where it all comes down to it. If we do not have employer engagement in this process, it's not going to work the way it needs to. So what we did is, and this goes just to, is a little bit of history here. About 2.5 years ago, I sat down with Courtney when we were we were in the process of starting the merger discussions and how all this was going to shake out. And I felt like that the Work Future Institute which is part of our foundation, was going to be a catalyst in helping us deal with what I call employer engagement and getting our members across all sectors of the economy to be engaged in the process of how training needs to take place to prepare, future employees. And I actually went and I sat down with Courtney. I said, Courtney, if you don't think this is going to help you, I'm not going to spend the time and effort to do it. And fortunately, she said, it is. We've got to have this. And it's led to where we are today. But the bottom line is, I was in a meeting in Washington not quite a year ago, and a lady that I used to do a lot of work with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Cheryl Odom, she had this quote that just really, it struck with me. She says, "If businesses don't step up and lead, how can we expect education to change?" We as business leaders have to make sure that the education community, the workforce development community, understands what the needs are within our businesses if we're ever going to see the change that needs to take place, so we're not just doing the things the same way we've always done them. I mean, K-12, you can really look at a lot of things in K-12, and it goes back to how it all started in the late 1800s. Not a lot of that has changed. How do we change that mindset, and how do we get into a different place? I think there is an effort taking place to do that. I think that you've got a real concerted effort among our education leaders to have that happen. I think you've seen it at the community college level. You're starting to see it really a lot more at the IHL level. I think there's a lot of programs that you can point to at our universities that are doing that. We've got to be at the table, though, where none of it really matters. We've got, if they don't understand what the needs of the businesses across all sectors of our economy are in Mississippi, how can we expect them to deliver what they need? So it works both ways.
And you touched on this at the IHL level just a second ago. I mean, do you hear from Glenn Boyce and Mark Keenum and Joe Paul at Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Southern Miss? And I'm not trying to leave anybody else out. I'm just using those three as an example, saying we recognize that what Mississippi needs is more of this, and we are trying to put programs in place to fill those gaps.
I think what I've seen, and I really have seen this, and I'm looking forward as part of what I'll be able to do going forward is having deeper conversations. I've seen a concerted effort to start to think about how do we bring the businesses to the table to have this discussion at the IHL level. And I think that's one of the things that's going to help drive that change, because, I think when you understand what is needed, because Courtney said this right off the bat, this isn't just about workforce development or career technical education with what's happening with Impact. Impact is going to look at every single level of education and figure out what our needs are across all sectors. I mean, we've identified just like healthcare, technology, manufacturing. You think about energy, particularly in a state like Mississippi, the energy sector is a big part of that. Those sectors have jobs that come across every segment of it, post-secondary education, whether it's the certification side, whether it's the associate side, whether it's bachelor's, and in many cases postgraduates. We have to look at it holistically if we're going to be successful in doing this, and I know that we are going to be successful in doing this. And when that happens, this council can go a long way in helping change the trajectory of our economy, because good workforce policy is good economic policy.
I want to hit on one last.
Something. Ooh, can I add something real quick?
Sure.
To that, I think you asked earlier about performance models, and I think at the end of the day, whether they want to or not is really insignificant, because they're not rewarded for doing the things that we need more of. They actually have to do it at their own peril in the sense of financial stuff. So we talk about performance models across all levels of education. They reward activity, not necessarily productivity and outcomes for the individuals, and it's a delicate balance to get them there. So even the most progressive, forward
It's almost
thinking,
like if the IHL would reward them for doing those things, it would be a little more palatable.
I mean, it's across the board. It's all levels of education.
I said that, not you.
No, I mean, it's fine. I think carrots, we have this conversation about carrots and sticks, carrots, sticks, and spurs, and sometimes it takes a stick to get things done, but a lot of times you can get it done with a carrot, and we just have to get the right carrots in the right place. And we have to have just a metric ton of leadership to do that.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not just IHL. I mean, particularly with the certification and the CTE associates, those are expensive programs. If they're not rewarded the same way, that you wonder why do they bother doing them? So
I can promise you, an engineer costs more than an English degree to produce.
Yeah. Last thing, we've got a minute left. Scott, you mentioned brain drain a second ago. Is there a difference in brain drain and life experience? And what I mean by that is, I talk to college students all the time. Hey, what are you going to do? I'm going to Nashville. I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to Birmingham, wherever. That doesn't mean they're leaving forever. But for a lot of people, maybe if they grew up in Mississippi and go to college in Mississippi, they want to experience something else. How are we laying the groundwork for them to want to come back, but still being okay with them getting that experience?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that we've got to really be able to give opportunities for them to come home. I mean, I see it a lot. I mean, my son's in his 30s, but a lot of his friends who are getting ready to have their first child or whatever, they decide, okay, I'm coming back to Mississippi.
Yeah.
If we don't give them an opportunity to come back to something that's rewarding, then we're not going to get them back.
There you go. I think that's a good place to leave it today. I appreciate both of you for coming in, for your time, and always look forward to the visits.
Yep. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Courtney Taylor, Scott Waller, my guest. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We're presented by Community Bank. Get some of your C Spire text line messages right after this.
Wake up!
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Back one last time with you on this Thursday morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. You heard Congressman Michael Guest talking about the congressional baseball game last night. Eric Schmidt, who played college baseball at Truman State, was the star. Diving catch in left field last night that turned out to be huge. We're going to be looking at some different kind of stars this weekend as the College World Series in Omaha begins tomorrow night. And we are happy to be joined from Charles Schwab Field in Omaha by our buddy Mike Aslan. He was and is a longtime listener to Sports Talk Mississippi and a sometimes listener to Mornings with Richard Cross. Mike, I've known him for a long time. Appreciate you joining us just for a couple of minutes this morning. How's it going in Omaha?
Thanks for having me, Richard. I just got here about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. I spent the night in St. Joe's and pulled in and come in and going to watch the practice sessions today. Ole Miss is up at 12:10.
So, for the first time since the 70s, Ole Miss got to the College World Series in 2014. And for a lot of people, it was like, okay, finally. And then in 2022, Ole Miss gets back, they win it all. I'm curious if it felt different to you pulling in into Omaha, walking into Charles Schwab Field with Ole Miss having won a national championship 4 years ago than maybe it did the last time you were there.
Last time it was special to get here. This time I'm expecting to win. I expected to win it last time, but this time I think we've got to be one of the favorites to win it, us in Texas.
Yeah. Ole Miss on the left side of the bracket. They will play North Carolina on Friday night, first pitch at 6 o'clock Central Time. What's the vibe in Omaha? That's a city that supports the College World Series so incredibly well. What does it feel like?
I just haven't been out enough right now, just getting into town this morning. I'm going out with some of the parents a little later today. We're going to meet for practice and going out, and I'll be able to gauge it more here, 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Mike, you've been following Ole Miss athletics and Ole Miss baseball specifically for a long time, but just in the last couple of weeks, I think going back maybe to the Lincoln Regional, when you got a lot of television time behind home plate, you have become a bit of a cult hero among Ole Miss fans and labeled as a super fan. What has that been like? You signing a bunch of autographs these days?
I took some pictures and signed some autographs outside of the gate in Auburn, believe it or not. It kind of took a life of its own. I guess being behind the plate, and it went viral, being tweeted, and then a lot of my students retweeted it, and I had 800,000 Twitter impressions in that week between Lincoln and Auburn.
There you go. You have become a star. Where are you sitting for Ole Miss's game against North Carolina tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, I'm sitting just behind the right-handed batter's box on the first row, actually the second row. And then game 6, right behind the plates, right directly behind the umpire on front row.
How about that? That's pretty high dollar real estate there. This is a passion for you. I know it has been for a long time. Anything stand out about your trip? I know you made the drive from Oxford to Omaha with maybe a couple of stops along the way. Anything that jumped out at you?
Pretty smooth trip. Stopped and got some throwed rolls in Ozark at Lambert's, and been to the Sykeston location before, but I decided to go the back road this time up through Springfield, and pretty smooth trip.
How long does it take to make the drive? If you go North Mississippi all the way to Omaha in one fell swoop, how long is the drive?
About 11 hours of drive time.
Gotcha. Any indication as to what kind of crowd Ole Miss will have for their opening game tomorrow night?
I just don't know if we're going to have the same crowd we had in 2022. The newness of it, I guess, in 2022 really drove our crowd. I think we're going to have a heck of a crowd here, but I just don't know that we'll have the same numbers we had last time.
Well, and even last time around, the numbers swelled dramatically as Ole Miss got to that second weekend in the championship series.
Absolutely. We play next weekend. I think we'll have pretty close to the same numbers.
All right, Mike, all baseball fans are superstitious. Do you have a superstition that you lock in on and absolutely will not deviate from?
I wear the same hat, the team hats. I don't always wear the same color shirt, but I always wear the same hat the team wears on the field that day.
All right, so what's the outfit for tomorrow night if people are looking for you in the second row behind home plate?
I haven't talked to the coach yet. Coach usually texts me the day before and tells me what they're wearing. And as soon as I find that out, I'll tweet it out and let them know what uniforms we're wearing, what hats we're wearing.
Okay. Are you thinking powder blue for you for the jersey tomorrow night?
No, hell no.
Okay.
I'll be wearing red because North Carolina's wearing blue.
Okay, so staying away from the powder blue because of the opponent, going to be red tomorrow night. Mike,
right.
Hope you have a blast in Omaha. Appreciate you checking in, and thanks for being such a loyal listener.
Thanks, Richard.
Mike Aslan, he is an Ole Miss math instructor, a diehard Ole Miss baseball fan, and joined us from Omaha. Thanks for being with us. Hope your Thursday is spectacular. For Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank.
Was previously recorded.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen,
here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Now that's entertainment.
And pleased to welcome in my next guest, the congressman from the 3rd District of the state of Mississippi, Michael Guest, joining us from our nation's capital this morning. Mr. Congressman, good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Great to talk to you, particularly in light of the Republicans' big win on the diamond last night. Most people probably don't follow congressional baseball, but the Republicans won last night for the 6th year in a row. Defeating the Democrats 11-2, and more importantly, raising $3 million for charity. So a charity baseball game they hold every year. They've done it since 1909. Republicans are on a winning streak. We hope to continue that next year. If Mark Teixeira is elected from the great state of Texas, we would love to have a former MLB All-Star playing on the diamond for the Republicans. But great night last night to be able to come together to raise money for a good cause. And that $3 million will be distributed among various charities across our nation's capital.
I'm assuming the Republicans' uniforms were red, white, and blue, and that Democrats were not?
We were mainly red, generally red versus blue. But we had the American flag, USA, on the jersey. So very patriotic jerseys to show our support for the entire country.
I will admit to you that had flown under the radar with me. I'm thankful that it did not get as much coverage as it did a few years ago when Congressman Scalise was shot during that. Certainly a scary time. What position did you play?
I was watching from the stands. I figured it was, with my athletic talent or lack thereof, it was probably be better for me to be in the stands rooting on my fellow Republicans.
Who is the best baseball player currently in the Republican caucus, absent Mark Teixeira joining the group a year from now?
I would say August Pfluger is from the great state of Texas, former Air Force grad. He and Greg Stubbe from Florida, I would say they're 1A, 1B. So both of them have a pretty good bit of athletic skills still left in some aging bodies, but both of them played well. And so, again, a good night for charity. I know most people were probably watching the Knicks and Spurs last night. They weren't tuned in to congressional baseball, but a couple of good sporting events that were taking place across the country last night.
I don't know if that's televised or not. I'd love to get on the announcing gig for that. That'd be fun.
Well, Chad Pergram from Fox News actually does some of the announcing for that, so he's able to throw in some political commentary with that. But look, would love to get you up. So I know you love sports, you love politics, a combination of both. So, I'm going to talk to SuperTalk and see if next year y'all can't come up and you can be broadcasting live from that stadium.
We could see about securing the radio rights for the congressional baseball game. I like that. Congressman Michael Guest is my guest. I talked to Mike Ezell a few weeks ago, and I said, outside looking in, there is some frustration with this Congress and with Republicans even, because it feels like nothing is getting done. Can you tell me if it's any different? And he said, no, I really can't. He said, it feels to us like nothing's getting done a lot of the time. Is that changing at all kind of post-early summer recess?
Yeah, I think there's always a frustration, Richard, that things aren't being done quick enough, that we're not moving fast enough. But look, things are being done. If you look at what we've done this Congress, and when I say done, I can only talk about what's happening in the House. When things get to the Senate, their rules are different, their procedures are different. It often takes things much longer for legislation that comes out of the House to get to the Senate. But we've passed things that are important to the American public. We've passed the Save America Act. And we have sent that to the Senate. We passed the Farm Bill, extremely important to Mississippi. If you look at agriculture is our number one industry in Mississippi, directly or indirectly employs over 20% of our state's population. We were able to get a farm bill passed out of the House. I serve on the Appropriations Committee. We have been able to, out of committee, pass 11 of 12 appropriations bills. The final appropriations bill that must come out of committee will come out of committee after we get back next week. But we've passed 11, and the Senate has passed none. And so if you look at that, we've also had the markup for the National Defense Authorization Act, another key piece of legislation that we have to pass every year to fund our military. And so we are working. We're working extremely hard. I'll tell you, Richard, this week I had a markup 2 nights ago where I did not get out of the markup until 1:30 a.m. And then last night we had to go back to markup after the congressional baseball game, and I was 12:45 walking out of markup, and that's 12:45 a.m. Just want to make sure that listeners understand when I'm talking about walking out at 1:30 or 12:45. That's 1:30 a.m. and not p.m. And so, look, we are working. We're working extremely hard. We're working against opposition. The Democrats are not making it easy on Republicans. And with a 3-seat majority, they are going to do everything they can to try to torpedo the agenda of the president and the Republican agenda. So a lot of times we have to work twice as hard to overcome the opposition that we face each and every day.
Significant news earlier this week: the funding bill for ICE and Border Patrol, Homeland Security gets to the president's desk. He signs that yesterday. There were some question marks, and there were some speed bumps and hurdles at the end, particularly around the added security features to the ballroom and this defense fund that the president talked about. How hard was it to set those aside to get the important funding piece to the finish line?
The bill was negotiated in the Senate. So those negotiations were happening in the Senate between the administration, Senate Republicans, and Senate Democrats. We used the reconciliation process, which allows us to then get around the filibuster in the Senate. Their rules generally on most pieces of legislation require a 60-vote majority to begin and to close debate. And so by using the reconciliation process, we were able to narrow that vote count to 50. The Senate was able to work out those differences, that some of that funding came out. And others, there were agreements by the White House not to go forward with some of the additional requests that they had originally made. Look, but that was important, and it was important because we've seen the Democrats really do all that they can to impede federal law enforcement and our first responders. We had the longest complete government shutdown in government history last fall, where the government as a whole was closed for 43 days. Then at the end of the year, we were able to reach an agreement to pass 11 of the 12 funding bills. The bill we could not reach agreement on was Homeland Security. Later, there was an agreement to come back and to fund Homeland Security except CBP and ICE. And so what this bill did is this was advanced funding for CBP and ICE through FY 2029. So this takes away the Democrats' ability to use that to try to force concessions from the Republicans going forward. And look, this is important because, look, we've got FIFA World Cup, which begins this week. We've got America 250. We've got the Olympics, which will be held in 2028. We've got so much that we are looking at, these special events that don't happen every day. It's important that we be fully staffed. And so while it was difficult, again, to get that bill across the finish line, it was the right thing to do. And the American public is going to be much safer because we have now fully funded CBP and ICE, again, through 2029. So we don't have to worry about this coming back being a recurring fight with the Democrats, them trying to use this to force concessions from the White House.
We've got a break coming up in just a moment. You got time to hang with us for a few more minutes?
Would love to.
All right. But before we do that, I really want to set this up because I feel like it may take you a little longer to answer. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, the job that he has, I feel like, at least outside looking in, is Herculean. A tiny majority, and it feels like on every single vote that comes along, he's having to thread the needle and in some case placate people within his own party to get them to vote, make deals constantly. Can you maybe just give me 30 seconds and we can pick it up on the other side of the break about the job that he's doing and maybe the way that he's doing his job?
Yeah, and you framed it up extremely well. He has a very difficult job with a very narrow majority, 3-seat majority right now. Look, I'll tell everybody, I think Mike Johnson has the worst job in not only Washington, but in all of America. And you are exactly right. He has to deal with very difficult issues, very narrow majority. He has to deal with people who are in extremely conservative districts. He has to deal with other members who are in districts that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris carried last election cycle. So he has his work cut out for him, but happy to expound more after the break.
That sounds great. Michael Guest, Congressman representing the 3rd District here in Mississippi, is my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. We're back with you after this.
It's time to switch on.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Yeah! When they play their music, that hard rock music, they like it with
Congressman, we're going to have you on a Wednesday at some point. Wednesday is our country and western day, and that seems to be the most popular bump music day. But when Lance rolls out something like the Jeffersons, it's not all bad on any day.
No, man, going old school with the Jefferson. So moving on up, yeah.
Michael Guest is my guest this morning. He is one of our congressmen, part of the Mississippi delegation, represents the 3rd District. We were talking about the Speaker, Mike Johnson, before the break, and one of the things that I was thinking about was the position of whip, especially majority whip, is one that has been glamorized a bit through the years, television shows, whether you're talking about House of Cards or West Wing or any of the other political shows that have come along. I know it's a position that still exists. Is it a position that still has the ability to operate the way traditionally it has? And does Mike Johnson have a whip that he can rely on?
He does. Tom Emmer is whip of the Republican Conference. Tom does a great job. He has a deputy whip, Guy Rushenthaler from Pennsylvania. And so, really their job is not to force people to vote one way or the other. Their job is to gather the information as where members are on certain pieces of legislation and then pass that up to the leader and the speaker. And so each week we are generally whipped on one major piece of legislation. This week it was on the reconciliation bill to fund CBP and ICE. And members have a chance then to weigh in at where they are on that legislation. If there are issues with the legislation, that is an opportunity to bring that up to leadership so that they can find a path forward. But ultimately, the floor action is not controlled by the whip. It's controlled by the speaker and the leader. So Steve Scalise, Mike Johnson, two of our Louisiana neighbors, they're the ones that are making those decisions. But a lot of times they're basing it on the information that they get from the whip. And so it is still an important position, and particularly in a narrow majority. You look at a 3-seat majority and a body of 435. It's important for leadership to know on these key votes where every member stands, because, look, all it takes are 1 or 2 Republican members to decide that there's something in the bill they don't like. If they vote with the Democrats, then we're not able to get that piece of legislation across the floor. And we see, look, sometimes votes have been held open for extended period of time. Most votes are 5-minute votes, but we've had votes that have been held open for well in excess of an hour as leadership is trying to work, as they're trying to massage the members to get their support for key pieces of legislation. Again, particularly things that the president is pushing for.
What about FISA? I know that's something that people are talking about. The president has asked at least for a temporary extension of FISA laws to be in place. You mentioned a moment ago the World Cup. We have a lot of international visitors that are either here or on their way for World Cup matches over the next few weeks. We hope those are all well-intended people that just want to wear the jersey of their favorite team and be in stadiums and cheering. But we also know that the bad guys are looking for any opportunity that exists. Where is that?
So just to kind of give a little background on FISA for those that may not be aware, FISA stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, put in place after the attacks on 9/11. It allows our intelligence services to gather information against non-American citizens who are not located physically within the United States. And so there are some guardrails to protect American citizens from being targeted and to protect individuals who are visiting the country once they enter the country from having their data collected. It is a data collection in which we are able to, and I say we as a country, are able to collect crucial information as it relates to telecommunication records, bank records, other records that help us hopefully be able to see a bigger picture that may be developing. FISA has to be renewed, reauthorized. That we are currently seeing that FISA will go dark at midnight tomorrow night. So if Congress doesn't act, the House and Senate does not do something, then FISA goes dark and we lose that very critical intelligence gathering mechanism that are relied upon by our intelligence services, a lot of 3-letter agencies, as well as by federal law enforcement. The House will be voting today for a temporary extension of FISA. We are voting under what's known as a suspension, which means it requires 2/3 of the members to support that legislation for it to pass. The Democrats have said publicly that they will not support an extension of FISA. They are upset about the president's appointment as his director of national intelligence. A guy by the name of Bill Poultry is the individual that the president has tapped. The Democrats don't like that, and so they are threatening to let FISA go dark unless the president changes who he wishes to head that agency. So we're looking at what could be a very hopefully not, but could be a situation to where we don't have the intelligence that we need as we have these crucial events coming forward. FIFA World Cup and America 250. Now is not the time that we want to lose that intelligence gathering mechanism. So we've got to find a way, like we have on so many of these other bills, to thread that needle, Richard, to get Republicans and Democrats on board for the good of the country.
Am I a conspiracy theorist if I think the CIA and the NSA and other three-letter agencies, as you referred to them, will figure out a way to work around this regardless of what happens?
There have been talks that the president may issue an executive order that would allow them to continue to collect that information. That is something that is being discussed at the White House. But it really needs to be something that Congress approves legislatively. It provides not only those agencies the authority, but it also provides these telecommunications and other groups that are complying with those three letters agencies, the protection from liability. And so, that's one of the concerns is, take a big telecommunications company like AT&T. Law expires, FISA goes dark. They basically tell them we're no longer complying. We're not going to give that information for fear of lawsuits coming down the road. And so that's why it is important, one, to give them the authority, but two, the liability protection from those agencies that will be cooperating with the government.
Is the resurfacing and the repair of the reflecting pool the most overblown story in recent history in D.C., or is there a reason that we should be up in arms about that?
No, look, the reflection pool was repaired under President Obama. It was repaired again under President Trump. Look, we were able to repair it at a lesser cost under Trump than we were under Obama. But look, we've got a lot of bigger issues to focus on. There's a lot of things going on across the country, a lot of things going on across the globe. And for that to be, something that we see talked about regularly on the national news, I think is extremely overblown. So let me bring up one thing, Richard, just because I want to make sure. So last week when I was here, myself and my team, we got to go visit some of our National Guardsmen from the 204 Air Defense Artillery Regiment. They are based in D.C. They have been here for roughly 11 months, and they are protecting the skies over Washington, D.C. And so about once every 4 years, these National Guardsmen, they fall into this very important mission. And so we had a chance to go by to thank them for their service, to thank them for how they are representing our country. But I think it is such an incredible story that Mississippi National Guard, that we have individuals that every 4 years come to Washington, D.C. They protect the skies of Washington to see that we don't have another 9/11 type event. In addition to those guardsmen, we have guardsmen who are up here who are providing security protection, police protection, particularly in the days leading up to America 250. So I think that's something that we should be proud of, something that back home we should be talking about more. That we have these young men, these young women who have joined first the military, who are willing to serve, and that they are so trusted by the military that they are allowed to perform some of the most critical missions that the military performs day in and day out. And so We wanted to go and just say thank you to those guardsmen. One of the things that we look and we try to do when those guardsmen are here is we try to find a night where we can get as many of those guardsmen as possible to come to the U.S. Capitol, give them a tour of the Capitol, personally thank them. You know, if you think about it, a lot of those young men and women, they've never been to Washington before. This is their first time in D.C. And so not only are they here performing a great service for us and for the country, but we want to make sure that that is a very memorable experience and that we thank them for all that they do.
Glad you mentioned that. That was the last thing I was going to bring up, so we were on the same wavelength there. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Appreciate your time. It's always too short, but great to catch up with you this morning. And if we don't talk again, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to you and your family and to all the great folks across Mississippi. Thank you, Congressman.
Thanks, Richard.
From this Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Rolling on with you. It's Thursday morning, June 11th. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. And Mike Cheney joins me now. He is the Commissioner of Insurance here for the state of Mississippi and is also the state fire marshal. And Mr. Commissioner, good morning. Appreciate some of your time.
Morning, Richard. I said in the background you got all your sports media there. You going to watch the ball game today?
Tomorrow. But go check out, Ole Miss and North Carolina, absolutely, on Friday. Looking forward to it. I was able to go to Omaha in 2022 a couple of times. I'm going to need the Rebels to win a couple of games and get to the second weekend if I'm going to make it back this year. It's quite the trip.
I made Omaha when State was up there. That was great.
Yeah.
Did a lot of politicking and listened a lot about State. Let's get to the program. So we get off on the tangent here.
It's all good. I do have a really important question for you. When you're the state fire marshal, do you get a really cool fireman's hat or helmet?
Well, I don't wear one around. You know, some politicians wear hats around. I don't.
All right. I think we just set the tone for the morning. Here we go. Let's talk about this roof fortification program in the coastal counties. Legislature signed a bill that allocates the money to get the fortification of roofs, that project going. It's something that's been talked about for a while. How is this going to work?
Well, basically, we had a few hiccups, but we plan to begin July 1 with $2 million using the money out of the wind pool. Will mitigate and run between July 1 and January 1st, approximately 200 homes that we'll mitigate the roof on. And what we do is a roof, basically you replace the roof that's there if it's in bad shape, and you make it where it's stronger, it's better than the roof you had on the house. You tie the sheet decking down, you make it with a membrane that goes over the roof that keeps water from penetrating the roof and running the sheetrock in the house. Basically what you're doing is fortifying the home so you have a home to come back to. You're reducing the risk to the insurance companies, and you're providing a home for the consumer to come back to. And by the way, all of these mitigation projects that we're talking about, they're $10,000 grants. The house has to be in fairly decent repair. We will not do the mitigation. We don't pay the contractors unless the job passes inspection. So we're trying to cut out all the fraud. That's the reason we want to administer the program.
So
so we looked at a reduction.
I want to get to that in a second, but in terms of the application process here, if I own a home that's eligible and I'm one of these first 200 or so in the batch, do I have to pay to replace the roof myself and then get reimbursed for that? Am I out of pocket initially?
No, you do not. The consumer will never get any money from out of the grant. It goes straight to the contractor that does the work. The consumer gets to pick from a list of 6 or 7 contractors that are approved, that have been, actually they have to have insurance, all the requirements that you got to have. You don't have any fly-by-nights driving in from another state saying, I can fix your roof today, and other guys can't get to it for months, and it's going to rain tomorrow. We don't have that. We have a list of approved contractors. The consumer or the policyholder picks the one they want to use, and the guy gives them an estimate of what it will cost. If it's more than $10,000, the consumer has to put up some of the money. Usually a roof is somewhere between $12,000 to $15,000 for larger homes, about $10,000 for a 1,500 square foot house. But the consumer never gets any money. The money goes straight to the contractor, and they don't get paid if they don't do the work correctly. And they have to have a standard. It's called the IBHS, and that's a code. By the way, the coach does have code requirements, but this is a code that has a stronger roof, ties the roof down to the sill plates on the house to the floor foundation. It's just a stronger home is what it does.
As part of the roof conversation, though not specific to this, we got a message on the C Spire text line a little while ago asking about something that a lot of insurance companies seem to be going to with roof replacement, and that's going to ACV, actual cash value. Is the replacement cost of the roof less depreciation? Traditionally, if I have hail damage, wind damage, storm damage to my roof, I file a claim, I pay my deductible, and my insurance company pays for the new roof to go on the house, whether it costs $10,000 like you were saying a second ago, or it's a $30,000 roof. It seems more and more insurance companies are going to this actual cash value, factoring in depreciation. The question from the texter was, yeah, but my premium is not going down any. Why is the coverage changing?
So that's a good question. What we do see is most companies are saying we may not even insure a roof that's over 15 years of age, but we have to work with the companies, and we have folks in the office that do that. Andy Case and Ryan and David handle a lot of those complaints. I tend to be a little short with the insurance companies about, by God, you're taking a premium from the consumer, you need to do your work, pay your claim. But if they give an actual cash value, they're supposed to have a premium reduction. If you want a replacement cost, what we call RCV, replacement cost value, you have to pay a little more premium. But we're encouraging folks to look at doing savings accounts and taking ACA because it's cheaper and you make more money. As a consumer, you say, not make more, you save more money as a consumer. So it's a valid question. When you don't get the discount, you ought to call us or talk to your agent. That's what we tell people to do. Your agent is your first line of defense when you're dealing with an insurance company. We tell you to shop around because not all companies require to write you an AC, actual cash value as we call it. But you should get a premium reduction. That sounds convoluted, but that's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah. There's a story that's been in the news in recent weeks. It's actually been going on for a while in Laurel with this old historic hotel that was renovated. The Hometown Crew, which has been a wildly successful television program, they did a renovation project in partnership with a local business person, and as I understand it, their insurance provider has refused to pay a claim for a fire that damaged that hotel, that historic property that they've renovated. Do you have any update on that story or where that's going or why it has been handled the way it has been handled?
Well, let me go backwards here. As late yesterday, we were informed by the attorney for the HGTV program that the settlement was done. And the second part is that our department was not contacted until May the 28th. And we were contacted and we had not been asked for help. I actually know most of the players in this thing, but social media got out of step and said that there's no money had been paid out, and there had been money paid out. I don't want to get into the particulars. Some of it's confidential, but let's just say they were paid more than the policy value. That may be subject to, some of it may be what we call a subrogation, and that would be a few $100,000. But from our understanding, and you got to remember now, Richard, we only got involved on the 28th of May, and our job is not to adjudicate claims. That's in the policy. It's a contract between the consumer and the policyholder and the insured company. So you live off that contract. In this case, they hired a lawyer the first day out of the chute, and when they do that, normally we will not get involved, but they never asked us to get involved until the 28th of May. And these are good people. I think there was a lot of social media things that were put out that just were not true. And I just can't answer all of them. I got one from Nebraska said, "Shame on you for being such a sorry commissioner." And I said, "Well, that's the way it is."
Shame on me, I suppose. You say social media maybe got out in step, and we know that a lot of times there's misinformation that comes out, but it's interesting to me that this becomes very public through social media just in the last few weeks on something that's been going on for a while, and all of a sudden the policy is paid and everybody's good to go.
Well, here's the thing that the social media didn't put out. About 80% of the policy had already been paid out a good while back. I think the issue became the contents of the building and there are a lot of other issues, and I'd say maybe 25% of the money that was held back, and that's what the issue was about.
Okay.
I wish I could give you more details, but we own something that may end up being nationwide. So I'll just say that we work with all the people involved. Liberty Mutual is a good company. They're an A-rated company, and I'm sorry they've taken it on the chin. But my job is not to defend them. My job is to protect the consumer, make sure that Liberty Mutual and all the other companies are solid.
Mike Cheney is the commissioner of the Mississippi Insurance Department. He's also the state fire marshal. You hang with me through the break and talk a little bit about flood insurance on the backside?
Can do.
That sounds good. We will take a timeout. We're back with the state fire marshal and insurance department commissioner. Do you have a fireman's helmet, though? I mean, even if you don't, you actually have one.
I'm going to put it on in here. I do have one. They're giving some of that fire stuff to Liz Welch at the Department of Finance and Administration because I wouldn't give trucks to people unless they actually needed one. I don't give a truck out on the grant program just for a parade. You just don't do that. So we gave Liz a fire hat, and I don't know if she's going to speak to me anytime soon.
We're back with Mike Cheney right after this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What are we going to do? Rise and shine with information and insight. Check it out. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
Now this shaded road is feeling cool.
Mississippi Insurance Commissioner Mike Cheney is my guest. Mr. Commissioner, I'm going to read you a text message verbatim as it came in from Joey the trucker. See what your response is to this. Well, I hope Mr. Cheney can help us with this high-priced damn insurance. You know, when you're retired and grow Social Security and pay nearly $400 to $500 a month for a supplemental insurance, a damn man can hardly make it.
I agree with the guy 100%, and that's he's talking about automobile insurance, I'm sure, along with all the other insurance problems that we have. And let me address that, see if I can do it quick, Richard. Health insurance premiums are over $1,000. People have to make a decision about, do I pay my electrical bill or I keep my health insurance? Because if I drop my health insurance, I lose my drug coverage. I have to have a life-saving drug, say you're diabetic. Or pay my home insurance, and if I don't pay my home insurance and I have a fire or a hailstorm, I lose my roof. So it gets very complicated. One of the goals to try to reduce those rates, not only in the health arena, but across the board for homeowners, is the mitigation program. It reduces your cost of your home insurance by as much as 20 to 30%. That's a proven fact in Alabama. Alabama has almost 60,000 homes that have gone through the mitigation program in the lower two counties in Baldwin and Mobile County, and they're expanding their program statewide like we have. Our legislation gives us statewide, but it's proven that you'll have a reduction there. On automobile insurance, I had a conversation with both chairmen of the House Insurance Committee and the Senate Insurance Committee about addressing the automobile insurance issues in the state of Mississippi. We could reduce the rates 40% if we could just get a handle on the uninsured motorists. Probably 30% of the people on the road, if not 35%, uninsured, and what that does to the guy that just texted in, it increases his premium and his rates. So how do you address the problem? It requires a lot of cooperation, not just with the insurance companies, but with the legislature, so that we have the laws to rein in the high prices of premium and automobile insurance.
So with that mitigation program, you talk about reducing premiums 20 to 30%. That's only for the people who go through the mitigation process, right? I mean, that doesn't do anything for me in North Mississippi.
Well, it doesn't unless you have mitigation in North Mississippi. And we will do some mitigation in North Mississippi. That's some of your representatives up in Lafayette County helped get that into the bill, which is good. Like the hailstorms that you have. We have a lot of hailstorms in the northern part of the state. Those roofs qualify under certain circumstances for mitigation. So that does reduce rates. But here's what happens. When you reduce the risk, whether it's in the Gulf Coast or statewide, for the insurance companies, you reduce the premiums that they have to charge. You with me so far?
Sure.
Especially on the wind side. And if wind constitutes 80% of your premium base on the Gulf Coast for insurance premiums on a home, you've got a big reduction in your homeowner insurance rates on the coast. When those go down, the risk pool is spread across the state. It reduces the need for premium base. So it's all relative to the risk that you're covering. A lot of the factors that we have to face with and to the text guy are due to inflation, things that we cannot control, or replacement costs on homes. And that's been a real issue for us, where you may have a home, say in Oxford, that cost you $100,000 10 years ago. That same home today is what, $350,000? And you're going to have to insure it to the $350,000 level with most companies. So we have been working with the companies to try to come back and have what we call actual cash value, similar to what we talked about earlier on roofs, for that homeowner, so we got a reduced premium. That's what we're doing. So for the guy that texts, I appreciate that text, because we face that every day of the week. We have a complaint about the insurance.
Mike Chaney, only about a minute left. Where are we on flood insurance? It's a never-ending conversation. It's a never-ending battle.
Well, the National Flood Insurance Program has been renewed temporarily by the federal government. They're the only game in town for most states, but in Mississippi, we do have private insurance. We have about 55,000 policies in the state, and it varies. But take Louisiana, they got 350,000. Florida's got over 500,000. But flood insurance is needed. It should be cheaper than what it is. I'll be at a meeting in 2 weeks with the national, all the other commissioners, and we're discussing that issue of flood. It's a big problem for us, Richard. And you got flood problems in Alcorn County, as an example. You have some flood problems in Lafayette County and Hinds County and Madison County. And people don't buy flood insurance because it's too dadgum expensive with the federal government. Yeah. If I got a minute, I'll just say that I had a legislator whose flood policy got canceled. He was paying $800 a month. It went to $9,000 a year with the federal government. He said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Don't pay the federal government, go buy private insurance." And we got him covered. But that's typical of what we run into.
Mike Chaney, insurance commissioner here in Mississippi, also the state fire marshal. My hope is the next time we visit, he will be wearing that fireman's helmet when we talk. I'm not going to hold my breath, but maybe.
Over on the other side of the desk. Thank you, Richard.
I mean, you could have picked it up during the break and at least brought it back for the second segment.
It's red. It clashes with my shirt.
Mike Chaney, he's one of a kind. We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.